Fleet Admiral Kefvar had survived 3 centuries of galactic warfare. His carapace bore the scars of 100 battles, and his compound eyes had witnessed the fall of empires. Yet as he stared at the data streaming across his command console, his 6 limbs trembled with a fear he hadn't felt since his larval days. "Repeat that transmission, Commander Hicks-Tal," he whispered, his vocal chambers barely functioning. Commander Hicks-Tal, a young officer from the outer colonies, shifted nervously on his perch. "Admiral, the initial ground assault has failed. All 12 battalions, they're gone, sir. Complete radio silence after 6 hours planetside." The bridge of the dreadnought Eternal Conquest fell silent. The ambient hum of the ship's systems seemed to grow louder in the absence of conversation. Admiral Kefvar's primary eyes fixed on the blue-green world rotating peacefully on the main viewer, while his secondary eyes scrolled through the mounting casualty reports. "Impossible," muttered General Vorthake from his position at the tactical station. "Our intelligence indicated a Class 7 civilization. Primitive projectile weapons, basic metallurgy. How could they eliminate our finest shock troops?" But Admiral Kefvar was no longer listening to his subordinates. A cold realization was creeping through his consciousness like poison through his hemolymph. With trembling claws, he accessed the Galactic Survey database, entering the planet's coordinates with desperate precision. The results made his blood run cold. By the 7 suns, he breathed, his voice barely audible. Classification: Deathworld. Threat level: maximum. Species designation: Apex Predator Evolution. Survival rating. His voice broke. Survival rating: 0. The bridge erupted in confused chatter, but Kefvar raised a shaking appendage for silence. He began reading aloud from the survey report, each word falling like a death knell. Planet designation: Sol 3, locally known as Earth. Gravity: 1.8 times standard. Atmospheric oxygen content: dangerously high at 21%. Magnetic field strength: catastrophic. Weather systems: extreme and unpredictable. Tectonic activity: severe. Commander Hicks-Tal's mandibles clicked nervously. "Sir, those parameters seem challenging, but surely not impossible for our forces?" Kefvar's laugh was bitter and hollow. "You haven't heard the worst of it." He scrolled further into the database. Dominant species evolved from persistence hunters. Neural complexity: maximum recorded. Tool usage: advanced. Social cooperation: exceptional. He paused, his voice dropping to a horrified whisper. Notable characteristics: throws objects with lethal precision. Capable of marathon endurance. Sweats toxins that would kill most galactic species on contact. The implications began to sink in around the bridge. Their troops, evolved on low-gravity worlds with gentle climates and peaceful herbivorous ancestors, had been deployed against creatures that had clawed their way to the top of one of the galaxy's most hostile environments. The atmospheric reports, Kefvar continued, his voice growing steadier as the full scope of their mistake became clear. "What we thought was breathable air is actually a highly corrosive oxidizing agent. Our soldiers' lung filters would have failed within hours." The next transmission from the surface confirmed their worst fears. It wasn't from their own forces, it was from the humans themselves. The image that appeared on the main screen showed a bipedal figure in primitive camouflage, standing in what appeared to be a dense forest. But Kefvar's trained eyes noticed the details that made his carapace crawl. The vegetation behind the creature was thick and verdant, indicating soil so rich in nutrients and aggressive microbial life that it would dissolve most civilized species' equipment within days. The human stood casually in this biological hell, apparently unaffected. "Greetings," the human said in accented but understandable galactic standard. "I'm Sergeant Maria Santos, Earth Defense Force. We found your soldiers." The camera panned to show a pile of Dominion battle armor, corroded and empty. The advanced composite materials that could withstand direct energy weapons had been eaten away by what appeared to be simple atmospheric exposure in plant secretions. "Your boys didn't last long, I'm afraid," Santos continued conversationally. "Took maybe 4 hours before the oxygen poisoning set in. Another 2 before the local bacteria got through their filtration systems. We tried to help, but. She shrugged, a gesture that somehow conveyed both regret and inevitability. You see, she continued, crouching down to examine one of the corroded helmets, you picked the wrong planet to invade. Earth isn't just our home, it's been trying to kill us for millions of years. We evolved here. Everything you see as hostile environment? This is just Tuesday for us. As if to emphasize her point, something roared in the background, a sound so primal and terrifying that several bridge officers instinctively stepped back from the screen. Santos didn't even flinch. That's just a territorial dispute between some local fauna, she explained calmly. Probably weighs about 8 tons, has claws the size of your forearm, and runs faster than your atmospheric vehicles. We've got bigger things in the oceans. Admiral Kefvar felt his secondary stomach begin to revolt. The database had mentioned Earth's megafauna, but he had dismissed it as exaggeration. Now, watching this human speak casually about creatures that could tear apart main battle tanks, he understood the terrible truth. Your orbital scans probably told you we're a Class 7 civilization, Santos continued. That's because we don't need advanced technology to survive here. We are the advanced technology. For billion years of evolution on a world that kills everything soft. The transmission showed Santos picking up one of the alien weapons, a particle rifle that required significant strength to lift. She hefted it with one hand, examining it with the casual interest of a child inspecting a new toy. Nice craftsmanship, she commented. Though the ergonomics are all wrong for human hands. Without apparent effort, she bent the weapon's barrel into a pretzel shape. See, our bone density is about 3 times what you'd expect from our body mass. Has to be, or we'd collapse under our own weight in this gravity. Around the bridge, Kefvar's officers were beginning to understand the magnitude of their error. They had sent soft-bodied soldiers evolved on peaceful garden worlds to fight creatures that had been forged in one of the galaxy's most hostile environments. The atmospheric oxygen that's killing your soldiers? Santos was saying. We need it to fuel our metabolism. The gravity that's crushing their internal organs? We've been lifting this much weight since we learned to walk. The bacterial load that's dissolving their equipment? Our immune systems fight off worse things before breakfast. Santos stood up, and the camera pulled back to show more humans emerging from the vegetation. They moved with the fluid grace of apex predators, their eyes constantly scanning their environment with an alertness that spoke of millions of years of natural selection weeding out the complacent. Admiral, Santos addressed the camera directly, somehow knowing exactly who was watching. You seem like a reasonable being. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to recall any other invasion forces you might have planned. You're going to mark Earth as off-limits in your navigation computers. And in exchange, we won't come looking for your homeworld. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Admiral Kefvar slumped in his command chair, the weight of his mistake crushing down on him like the gravity of the Deathworld below. He had sent 12 battalions of his finest troops to die on a planet where simply breathing the air was lethal to them. Worse, he had awakened something that had been content to remain hidden in the outer rim of an unremarkable galaxy. Set course for home, he whispered, his voice carrying the authority of absolute defeat. Emergency burn. And Commander Hickstow? Yes, Admiral? Send a priority message to High Command. Classification, ultimate priority. Message reads, do not engage Sol 3 under any circumstances. Species classification upgraded to Galactic Threat Level Omega. Recommend immediate quarantine of entire system. As the Eternal Conquest retreated from Earth's solar system, Admiral Kefvar couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Somewhere on that blue-green Deathworld, creatures that had mastered the art of survival on one of the galaxy's most hostile planets were taking note of who had dared to threaten their home. The humans, it seemed, had learned something from their billions of years of evolution that no other species in the galaxy had mastered: how to turn their own planet's attempts to kill them into the ultimate weapon of defense. And now they knew they weren't alone in the universe.